Welcome to the Gray Area. It's your man Kevin Gray of 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate everyone continuing to subscribe to the YouTube channel here at Kevin Gray Sports. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. You can catch me on the weekends with my partner Will Chambers on the Fan Jam from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and also on Sundays with the two-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Appreciate any likes and comments on this video. Want you to subscribe so you can get the notifications of when new content is up here on this YouTube channel. I appreciate the feedback and support everyone continues to give me as we continue embarking on this journey right here on Kevin Gray Sports, the YouTube channel. The Mavericks have embarked on their Orlando bubble experiment, if you will, and off to an 0-2 start. Yes, the Dallas Mavericks have clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2016 after the Spurs beat the Grizzlies. So the Mavericks were able to backdoor their way into the playoffs despite starting off 0-2 in Orlando with gut-wrenching losses to both the Houston Rockets and the Phoenix Suns. The Houston Rockets were able to overcome a 7-point deficit with 45 seconds left in regulation on a Robert Covington putback on a James Harden missed layup. And then they go on to win in overtime, 153-149. And then the Mavericks backed that up with a second consecutive loss to the Phoenix Suns after blowing a 10-point lead in the third quarter after your man Devin Booker got into foul trouble. But the Phoenix Suns bench and Ricky Rubio and others were able to step up and help the Phoenix Suns overcome the Dallas Mavericks and hand them their second consecutive loss to start off the Orlando bubble. This is despite the fact that Kristaps Porzingis in back-to-back games has been absolutely spectacular. 39 points, 1 point of his season high, 1 point of his career high. And also backing that up with 30 points in the second game. Luka Doncic having 40 points in the Suns game, 30 points in the first game against the Houston Rockets, have found themselves, though, not being able to close out ball games when they needed to most. And despite the terrific performances from guys like Trey Burke in his first game back with the Dallas Mavericks, scoring 31 points on 8 3-pointers, Tim Hardaway shooting lights out against the Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks found themselves not being able to close out ball games. And this is a team that unfortunately has struggled with this all season long throughout the 2019-2020 NBA season. And in clutch time, this team is 17-23. You say, Kevin, well, how do you define clutch time? That is within the last 5 minutes of a ball game, with the score of 5 points or fewer between the Mavericks and their opponent. And the Mavericks have not been able to close out ball games. And that's been a major problem this year, whether it was the Denver Nugget game or giving up an easy basket to your man Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards. The Dallas Mavericks have struggled to find a way to finish off ball games, but more importantly, maintain leads to give them the confidence that if things do get tight, they were able to overcome those situations, because they've been in these situations plenty of times this season, but at the same time have not been able to overcome them. And when you get into a situation with a young basketball team like the Mavericks are, you got a precocious 21-year-old in Luka Doncic and a unicorn 2.0 in the recent birthday having Kristaps Porzingis, who just turned 25 years old. You're going to go through these growing pains. And what we're seeing from a young Maverick basketball team is a team that's learning how to win, learning how to develop a championship mindset and mettle that will overcome difficult situations. And one of the young marks of a basketball team is the idea that sometimes calls are not going to go their way. But this Maverick team, unfortunately, tends to complain a lot more than most teams do, especially Luka Doncic. And Kristaps Porzingis has talked about the idea that they need to curb some of that complaining with some of the calls that they don't get when they feel like they should and have earned such calls. Again, this is a mark of a young basketball team learning how to deal with adversity and gaining the respect of not only their opponents, but gaining the respect of officials to get those kinds of calls when they feel like they should get them in pivotal moments. But at the same time, this Mavericks team has been talented and played well, especially with their bench all season long. But in these first couple of games, two things have reared their ugly head. One, the inconsistency of getting things done when they matter most. And two, we've seen at times Luka Doncic tend to shrink a little bit in the biggest of moments. You think about what happened in the Rockets game. My man went 0 of 7 in the fourth quarter from the three-point line. Did not play well in overtime either. And even in the game against the Phoenix Suns, this was a team collectively that did not execute the way that they needed to, hitting free throws down the stretch as they did in the Rockets game. And for Rick Carlisle, the head coach, a championship head coach of this Mavericks team, he has taken the blame on himself about how the team has not been able to execute in the biggest of moments. But at the same time, Rick Carlisle is not on the floor trying to close out ball games. Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, Seth Curry, who had a big miss in the Rockets game. These are the individuals on the floor trying to execute in order to win ball games. While I appreciate Rick Carlisle and his ability to shoulder the blame, part of what helps a young basketball team grow is the accountability that comes with ensuring that the players understand what the moment is, how they need to execute in that moment, and then holding them accountable when they don't. And Kristaps Porzingis has talked about the idea that these learning lessons will need to continue to happen for the Mavericks as they continue to learn how to win. Right now, they're on a collision course with the Los Angeles Clippers for a first-round playoff matchup in the Western Conference playoffs. The Clippers seem like they're going to hold down the number 2 slot behind the Western Conference leading Los Angeles Lakers, while the Dallas Mavericks, barring an epic collapse, will not slide farther past the 7th seed, where they are currently right now. And we've seen throughout this season, in the few games that the Mavericks have played the Clippers are a terrific defensive team with two star players, two amazing players on both ends of the floor, two-way players such as Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who have given them fits all year long. And once Lou Williams gets back from Magic City getting his wings and out of quarantine, you're looking at a 6th man of the year potentially in Lou Williams. And then Montrezl Harrell, who's dealing with a personal family matter, has not returned yet for the Los Angeles Clippers. So this is a deep basketball team that the Mavericks are going to see in the first round of the playoffs. But before we even get to the first round of the NBA Western Conference playoffs against the Clippers, this Mavericks team still has some work to do in their 6 remaining games, and that is ensuring that they are developing the kind of mindset that will help them overcome execution issues, poor decision-making in terms of shooting the basketball, being able to execute simple things like free throws under pressure. But at the same time, as we continue to watch this Maverick team grow before our eyes and the budding stars of Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic, who's been a top 3 MVP candidate all season long, it gives you comfort to know that these lessons are being learned. Painful and frustrating as they may be right now, this is what most teams in the NBA have to go through on their way to becoming a champion. Albeit we didn't see that with the Golden State Warriors, who kind of bypassed that adversity thing and instantly became champions and contenders. Most teams, like, for example, the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan, who had to overcome the Detroit Pistons, and how the Sacramento Kings tried to overcome the Los Angeles Lakers in the early 2000s, these teams have to go through these things. And once they do, they learn how to win, and win in a way that gives you confidence that they can sustain that kind of winning for a long time to come. So as you watch and see these Dallas Mavericks continue to play basketball in Orlando, yes, they need a wing defender. Yes, they probably need another scorer, but they have enough right now that will give you the idea that not only the core, when you look at Tim Hardaway and Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, they're going to be okay. It's those others around them that will need to continue to get better too. And yes, this team will go as far as Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis takes them. And especially in the case of a Luka Doncic, his ability to mature in the biggest of moments of basketball games, compartmentalize and tune out what calls he is or he isn't getting from referees, will go a long way to helping him focus on the idea that taking step-back threes may not be the best thing to do in crucial moments. Attack the rim, create fouls, put the pressure on defense, and force referees to make calls in order to give him better opportunities to convert from the free throw line, especially as he continues to improve as a free throw shooter, which we've seen at times him struggle with this season. So there's a lot of things that the Mavericks have to continue to work on, but at the same time, it's been magnified because the 2 losses that they've had have not been good, especially when you look how bad they've been defensively. This is the number 1 team in offensive rating and efficiency in the NBA. Not just this year, but historically, the best that the NBA has ever seen in terms of offensive efficiency. But they're in the middle and the bottom half of defensive efficiency. This is a team that, yes, scored 85 points in the first half against the Rockets, scored another 73 points in the first half against the Phoenix Suns. But at the same time, you look at the Rockets game, for example, they also gave up 75 points, and it was a virtual layup line for your man James Harden and Russell Westbrook throughout that basketball game, getting to the basket at will through penetration and out in transition. Mavericks, and Rick Carlisle has talked about, have got to find themselves becoming a much better defensive team, especially if you're not going to be that good and not get stops when they count most either. Rick Carlisle has talked about the idea that this team needs to be within the top 10 or close to the top 10 of defensive efficiency to give teams a legitimate threat that they are going to be something to be contended with for years to come. That's not happening at this point. But once they do, they will find that balance needed to give you the idea that this can be a contender for a long time to come. But at the same time right now, as you think about what the Mavericks have embarked on, they're trying to learn how to win and develop a mindset that gives you confidence that this is something they'll be able to overcome later on. Because right now, buddy, Mavs are struggling when it counts most. But again, this is usually the mark of a team that's learning how to find it. And once they do find it, this is a team that can be downright scary. Yes, it needs some additional parts and something else going forward, and it needs its biggest star in Luka Doncic to find himself being more consistent in the biggest of moments. But once they do, this team might be pretty scary. They'll probably learn a painful lesson when it comes to how to win and developing championship mettle when you go against a veteran-laden team and Kawhi Leonard, who's already a 2-time NBA champion and won Finals MVP in both the East and Western Conference already. That challenge is going to be tough. But as you go through these next 6 games and into the playoffs, the Mavericks will learn valuable lessons that will give you the confidence that one day, hopefully sooner than later, that this team will find themselves right in the middle of a championship chase. But hey, adversity brings out the best in you. And the Mavericks have seen a lot of adversity so far, and so far it hasn't brought out the best in them. But as time continues to go on, this young Mavericks team has an opportunity to do something special down the road. Maybe not right now, but at the same time, watching them grow and go through this will give us a better appreciation for what they will become, we think, down the road. We'll see how the Mavericks handle this bubble environment and into the playoffs over these next several games. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Make sure you like and comment on the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. I'll talk to you later. Peace.